All right, in here in the Mocap lab today with my colleague Byron, we are going to demonstrate the new Mocap workflow that's in Unreal Engine 5.6. I haven't seen this anywhere, and it's really pretty amazing. If you've got a Mocap lab like we got here, and you do any kind of mocap, either optical or with inertial, or even, I don't know, probably this markerless video mocap that we're seeing a lot of. This is a great workflow. Let's check it out. Okay, so I'm going to just make a new project using the game template blank. Here's my bog standard Unreal Engine project, and I like to make a new level of the type basic straight away, and then save this in a folder called maps. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is load the plugins that you need. Plugins, and they got the name Performance Capture Core and Workflow, marked as experimental. And we'll also need our OptiTrax plugin because we're using an OptiTrax system. Now, I think as of this recording, there is no 5.6 OptiTrax LiveLink plugin released. So we just compiled 5.5 and put it into the project here. You'll also need LiveLink, the general LiveLink here, this one. And I think that's it. Yeah, and then you have to restart. The tool lives here under the window menu in virtual production. You could see the Mocap Manager. We're also going to go and launch our LiveLink window here, and I like to pin my LiveLink window up there. If you do it the same all the time, you know where to go. So it's a top to bottom kind of a workflow, and the first thing that you do is you create a session. So you need to create all of the missing data assets for this. Data assets keep track of all the stuff that we're going to care about as performance capture people. And the way you create a session here, the first tab here is you can create a new production. This could be, you know, our university or something, or whatever your production is. And a session will be what we're doing today in this particular instance of motion capture recording. And so we're going to just call this Thursday demo. And if you want any notes, they go here. And then you click Create Session. I probably should have pointed out that you can change your defaults down here. And the defaults apply to how Take Recorder is going to record. Like, for example, I don't prefer to record into subsequences, so I toggled this off last time I was here. And you can control where things get recorded to, where your session folders get placed, where your root folder of all this stuff is going to be. I left all those at the default. I think maybe the only thing I changed here is what settings were chosen for the default recording. But there's lots of defaults in here, and you set these before you create your session. This will change what's in this template data asset. So the way this works really is just these fields are setting a bunch of data assets that store all of the relevant data for your production and connects them all together in a lovely way. So after you've created a session, it sets the session here. We only have one session in our project currently because it's a brand new project, but if we were to record a 3-day shoot, for example, each day would be a separate session underneath this production. So the next step here, you go to the stage, and the stage is a 3D representation of your mocap environment, right? And so BP stage root is shipped by default, and you'll see in a minute it's a 5 meter by 5 meter stage. We're just going to use that and build our own default template for our stage, which is 8 by 8 meters. But we'll do that on another time. We don't need to do that now. Spawning the stage will put the stage into your world like this. So it just puts the stage into whatever level you have loaded, and it puts it in just like you would want. If you look at the levels window, levels, you'll see the stage has been spawned into a sub-level. So imagine this persistent level is your set that you've built, your house or your environment that your mocap needs to happen. Your stage gets spawned into that as a sub-level. And what I like to do when I'm doing operating, I like to hide everything except that sub-level, which you can do from this menu here. Hide only, what is it? Hide only in current level. So it'll just show, you'll see as we go along, this outliner will now not show the whole set build. It'll just show the stuff we care about for our mocap session. This is how I used to do this manually, and it's great to see this so easily done. There's also this grid of an adjustable decal that can show you, where your valid mocap area is. And you can set this grid size. Like out here in our mocap lab, we've got these big rubber tiles. Each of these tiles is 1 meter by 1 meter. And so in Unreal Engine here, I can set this grid up to be 1 meter by 1 meter and have a nice representation inside of Unreal Engine for my particular volume. And you can turn that on and off, and you can turn on and off the truss, which is super cool. So that's everything you need for the stage. See how it's green? Next, you come up to the motion. Now, we haven't set up our LiveLink. We'll do that now. We're going to add the OptiTrack source. And we can see that we've got 2 performers coming in. This is just motion that's playing on a loop over there in Motive. So these 2 streams are both active. They're both green. We currently have no timecode provider coming in because we haven't ticked this box. And then you step through adding your performers. So start with this performer button. And down here, so it's a little bit counterintuitive. Up here is where you spawn, but you can't spawn anything until you build performers. Building performers is quite easy. You pick a stream. You pick a base skeletal mesh, and our project is using the OptiTrack's plugin, which ships with some meshes to use, but you won't see them unless you turn on engine content and plugin content. Now that I've done that, I'll see engine content down here, and I should see my skeletal meshes that have shipped with the Motive software and the plugin from OptiTrack. So I'm going to pick the SKMF Motive avatar from OptiTrack's, not the one with X forward, the one without X forward. And once I do that, you can launch the workflow. You can also use the workflow to change that particular skeletal mesh. But immediately you can see the bones for the LiveLink have taken the skeletal mesh and scaled it appropriately. It's actually not scaling, it's repositioning the joints. And once you like it, you can create a mesh and an IK rig right here. This is where you can name your performer. I'm going to call this Gen instead of Gen 2. And when you click OK, it's created 3 assets. No, it's created 2 assets. The base asset is plugged into this data asset here, and then it's created and plugged in this new one, which is a scaled version of that one. And it's also created an IK rig for this asset here. We'll come back to those in a minute, but I'm just going to keep marching through. Now that I've filled in all of these data asset fields from this section, you can now use this button to create the performer, which is another kind of an asset. Once you create a performer, it automatically loads it up into this spawn area. This is what the performer looks like, the performer data asset. And you can spawn the performer, and it immediately shows in your world with the motion. How about that? So this is way easier than what we had to do before. You may have seen on my channel, I had a video about all of the issues regarding getting this motion in easily, and scripts to fix that, etc. But now in Unreal Engine 5.6, easier than ever. But wait, it gets even better. Now, one thing you may notice here is our performer mesh looks a little bit fucked up. And I think it's because it's not scaling the bones, it's repositioning the bones. So it's kind of squishing together the vertices of the skeletal mesh in a kind of unattractive way. So you see that the back of the legs here are getting squished up and stuff, and the shoulders obviously not looking right. That's really nothing to be too concerned about because this is the performer mesh. We're going to retarget this onto a character in a moment with the next step. The important thing is that the bones that are inside of here are the same proportion as the bones that are coming out of motive. So moving on here, back to this. We have two performers here, so I'll create them both, and we'll go through those same steps. So I'm going to, once again, pick the same that I did last time. I'm going to launch the workflow just like last time. I'm going to write Meg here and create a performer named Meg. We've filled this all out. Now we need to create the performer, and now it's filled in up here, and I can spawn the performer. So now we've got both of our performers doing the motion that's playing from motive. Moving on, now you've got this. Now that you've got your performers in your scene, you want to maybe retarget those to some characters. So let's go get some characters. My scene doesn't have any kind of characters in it currently. Here's one way. You can click this add button, add feature or content pack, and get a mannequin from the third person template. So we'll do that for one of our characters. So this just imports all of the content packs and stuff for that and puts it in this third person thing and this new characters folder. Here's the mannequins. So we can use one of these as our character A, and we'll get another character from, where should we get something from? Maybe the Paragon. We'll use a Paragon character. So we'll go to Fab. I like Shinbi. There's Shinbi, which is already in my library, and so I can add it to my project here after carefully reading all of that. And that should just come right into my project like that. We'll give that a moment. While that's coming, I'll use the other character. And like before, you've got to create the character asset first. Our source performer will use Jen. Oh, it's frozen while it puts Shinbi in there. There we go, Shinbi. Let's make sure it showed up first. Meshes. There we go. So Shinbi is shown up. So maybe we'll start with that. And since I'm here, I'll just drag and drop that onto my character mesh. These I'll leave empty because I want to demonstrate that it will automatically create these. So if you leave these blank, they'll get created. But if you want to use retargeters or IK rigs that exist, you can. So I'll just do that. And you can see this is cleared out, and now this is available. I forgot to name it, it looks like. So that says none, which I don't like. So I'm going to try this again. My source performer is going to be Jen. My character is going to be Shinbi. I'm not going to create those, but I'm going to remember here to write Shinbi. And now I've created another character. This time it's named, and now I'm going to spawn that character. And you can see immediately that character shows up and is retargeted. Now there are little bits of issues with the retargeting, but we're going to work on those in a moment. Next we're going to make Quinn. Our source performer is going to be Meg, and our character mesh is going to be Quinn. I'll leave those blank, but like I said before, you can find retargeters that exist, or you can create them automatically. Once I've created it, it populates this field, and we can spawn it into the scene. And there we have retargeted 2 characters in just a few steps. What's amazing about this is you can come over here to this all section, and now we can turn off our source characters, and you can see that Shinbi is driven by Meg, Shinbi is driven by Jen, and Quinn is driven by Meg. I think this is an amazing tool, but I kind of wish these were side by side rather than in a stack like this, but that's all right. You can also show the bones of each of these characters or the driver. So I'll turn the drivers back on, the performers. And you can show the OptiTrax driven bones in the performers here with this window, or the skeleton of the driven characters with that. And this is actually, I think, super cool. You can, that's off, that's on. There we go. And that's off. You can bring up this window here, which is a simplified retarget setting adjuster. So you can do things here like blend to source, scale vertical, turn on IK and FK, etc. So you can go through here and change various things, or you can open the retarget asset and change things here. So we're going to use this to fix Shinbi's feet. So the feet aren't really doing the right thing. So we'll turn that off, go into edit mode. I'm going to take my source mesh, no, my target mesh. First, let me offset my source mesh, not that way, this way. Offset this and fix my pose here because these feet are looking wrong. So I'm going to scroll down here. I'm editing the pose and I want to find these feet. I could also turn on the bones. Oh yeah. Yeah, they move things around. All hierarchy. I can select the feet. Okay, foot, root, calf. Here we go. Foot. There's one. Tip it down like that. Here's the other one. Good enough. You get the idea. And now that that's done, we can run the retargeting and look at it over here, and we see that it's looking a little better. It is lifted a bit, so we can use one of these offsets. Maybe it's the pose I need to edit. So running retarget, edit pose.
Just, yeah, because everything is still parented.
Oh, it is.
The root is just...
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Doot. And then run. So now Shinbi's a little bit more on the ground. There we go. Thanks, Byron. What else can I show? So now that we have got everything ready, you can move to the Record tab, and you can record right from here without using Take Recorder, which I think is super cool. I love the Take Recorder. It works great, but to have this is even better. Before I even get to this, though, let's look at this Slates tab. This is super cool. So here you can prepare a bunch of slates. So let's say, for example, I need a few motions like a hug, or add a new row, or a run, and then add a new row, and a walk. And here you can add some notes like fast, and this one, slow, or whatever, and mean. It doesn't want to go in there. So it is experimental. There we go. Mean. And then as you work through your thing, you can hit this button, and this will go up here. Boop. And then control your slate. This is the session, and all of our slates are going to go under that session. And you can even save this table down here with that button. And as you do this, you hit the button, you make your recording, and then you can mark these as completed. So you know where you're up to in your big slate list. I think this is an amazing feature. I love it. And I'm wondering if we can adjust this outside of the place. We can. Look, this is a data table. And I suspect there's a way to import and build this table outside in Excel or something. with a CSV or something, and you can have a complex, you know, record of what you need for the day, all set up in advance, and then you just click through and change your slates as you go. I love it. I love this feature. Anyway, we'll go back to the recorder. Here you've got some global settings about what you can record. For example, you may like to record to possessable in your sequences. You may like to see the sequencer every time. You can change the frame rate that you're going to record to here. And you can see here we're using the time code. Well, I guess you can't see, but this time code that we see here is the one that's playing back in Motive. Now that we have all that confirmed, we can hit the record button. We also have the ability, before I hit the record button, you need to tell it what you're going to record. So here we've got Shimby and Quinn, our characters. We can record their characters, or we can record our performer skeletons, or we can record the LiveLink. I like to record the LiveLink, and sometimes I like to record these. You also have the option to record audio with each of these takes. So if you've got scratch audio coming in, you can bring in up to 2 channels of audio, and so if your performers are mic'd, you can get good, usable scratch audio with this method, which I think is also an amazing feature. So much more fiddly to do in Take Recorder than here. You can also add other actors from your scene. For example, say there's some reason to record something like the floor. You can add that. We don't need that, so I'm not going to do it. When you hit the record button, it just goes. And now it's recording. And then I'll stop. And I'll make another one just to demonstrate, just to have a couple of takes in my take list. That's enough. I'll stop that. And now in the preview tab, you can play back your different takes. So double-clicking this will bring up that recorded take. And as you can see, I haven't recorded into subsequences. Everything is here in this sequence. My actors, my stage route, which is also important to record. And I'll point out that that was recorded because over here I've recorded the hierarchy. So my things that I've recorded are underneath of the stage route. That's why I have the stage route here. And so when I play back, it's showing twice because I've recorded the characters and I've recorded the LiveLink, and the LiveLink is still currently connected to my characters here. So I've spawned in these two, but I'm connected to the 2 in my outliner. So that's why we're seeing this doubled up. This is the LiveLink, and that's the spawned. Super cool. And then when you're done, I believe you just close the sequencer, and then you're out of review. So I think that's much tidier than what we had in the Take Recorder. So you, maybe like us, were also running Switchboard to trigger your other devices, including like Motive or the LiveLink face or a video recorder, etc. So we tried that yesterday just to see if that also worked, if this was sending OSC messages, sending and receiving OSC messages in the same way that the Take Recorder was sending and receiving OSC messages. And we found that we could change the slate here, and those messages were sent. We could change the slate in the Switchboard, and that was received. We could hit record in the Switchboard or here, and that was working fine. But what we found was when we stopped recording here in Unreal Engine, we were not getting a stop signal in the Switchboard for our other devices. It was continuing to roll, so we had to go to Switchboard and do a stop. What Byron found when he went on a deep dive to see what the story was there was a small bug, and has fixed it in our source build, and he's already made a pull request to Epic, and that will be updated in a future release. So that's just something to know about if you're using the Switchboard like we are. That really might be everything to show about this remarkable and amazing workflow. I love it. Absolutely love it. Really nicely designed, really well thought out. Well done to whoever made this. And I'm surprised I hadn't seen it mentioned in any of the materials. Now, I haven't watched all of the Unreal Fest streams, so maybe it was mentioned somewhere in there, but yeah, super cool. Thanks for making it, Epic. Okay, bye.